Hello again. Guess what? It's Saturday, and we had a Fish concert last night. Another one. Thanks for tuning in. I'm RJ. I see you all tuning in. I'm going to bring in a couple guests in a minute, but first, just want to say thanks for joining us. And we are here because of our friends at Shift Genuine Cannabis, shiftcannabis.com. We have a bunch of announcements coming up actually this week, and we'll be doing these recaps after every show, 1 p.m. Eastern, and we have a podcast that will drop every Tuesday. So check out this Tuesday's episode. We have an announcement and a contest that you are going to want to pay attention to. Those of you who are tuning in, please put comments into the chat box on whatever platform you're using. This thing that I'm using allows me to see comments from all over the internet. So join the discussion and leave some comments. So we're talking about Oak Mountain. I got to listen to it this morning. I was not there, but we are going to talk to two people who were there and get some perspective on it. So I'm going to bring those guys in. Just a reminder, please share this with folks you think want to hear us talk nonsense about fish, and and keep the comments coming. All right. So Chris Bentley, how you doing, man?
I am good. What's up, RJ? Good to see you.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I think the last time we spoke in person, I think might have been at 420 Festival a few years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Probably right. It's been a while. So you made it through the pandemic and to a Fish concert.
I did. This is the not other side of pandemic, but we're getting there, heading that direction, the other side of a pandemic.
Yeah. How long do you have to drive or travel to the show? Was it nearby?
So I live I live in Birmingham, basically just south of Birmingham. Pelham is not that close to Birmingham. It's like maybe 40 minutes from Birmingham, but from where I live, it's about 20 minutes away. It's pretty close.
Cool. All right. I'm going to just, as we talk, I'm going to take questions and comments, and I just want to add this comment that Flying Fish said, "So happy to have y'all back." I'm not Southern, but I'm doing my best.
Yeah, thanks you can add a y'all in there.
Thanks for joining, Chris.
We're all Southern today for the Oak Mountain.
Yeah. Right. So are you heading to Atlanta too, or just
No, I'm skipping Atlanta for the first time since Fish got back together. I'm very bummed about it, but I'll focus on the Gorge. I'm going to the Gorge for the first time, so that's where all
amazing.
That's where all my budget's heading for the summer. Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So tell us about the scene. I know Trey said from the stage that they love playing there, and they always love the shows at Oak Mountain. What was it like before the show? I saw a picture from Wombat Matt of like a crush of crowd getting in, and I'm just curious how the lot scene and all that was.
That is always the case at Oak Mountain. Huge. They check every individual person, right? They take forever to get in the door. So we were late getting in. We missed and it sort of has it sits down and there's a bit of a hill and then it goes over. So like we couldn't even hear that we didn't even know the band had started. So we missed MoMA Dance. We get in and we're like, all right, so we should get a beer, maybe check the merch stand. And then I was like, I think Fish is actually playing. There's like music and there's like something in the distance. It was faint. It sounded more like walk-in music, but we're like, no, that's definitely the band. So we rolled in, and then a lot of people were running around trying to figure out where to go. To me, it felt like it got all the way into Funky Bitch before it sort of felt like the crowd had actually found their space, and everybody had settled. It was an awkward start. I felt like, I think the band was doing fine, but the crowd was disjointed.
We in our first review the other day, our guest said that the crowd was rusty along with the band. So it seems like
I think that makes sense then. Yeah, that's true. It was also super hot, so we were not trying to hang out on lot more than we had to yesterday. But it was like 98 degrees,
Amazing. So what was it like being back and seeing a concert? Like, what were your highlights from the first set, and what did it feel like kind of getting back in the groove?
It was awesome. I would say my highlights were both Dirt and Driver. I couldn't believe they played both of those. I mean, they get into it in the Ghost, but those two are just rare, and they're just great tunes. So I was like shocked that they played them. So that was that was a lot of fun. But it was just great. I was just excited to be at a show again. We managed to we were down in the second tier, but we were sort of on the edge. So everyone kept fighting to get more middle, and we just had a ton of space for us. And I was like, I'm more than comfortable dancing in this very open row while you guys fight over there in the corner for.
That's amazing. That probably helped you feel a little bit more safe too, I would assume, or a little more like distance.
It was, I did not see a lot of masks. Joel Cummings was wearing a mask. I ran into Joel. He was there. He was wearing a mask. He, his wife, and their baby were all masked up. I just spotted him walking by, and I was like, "Joel." I just said it out loud just to see if it's him, you'll stop. If it's not him, it's just a random guy. Yeah. And he stopped and sort of pivoted back, and I was like, I knew it. We elbow bumped. We didn't, he did the elbow. Yeah. We chatted for a second. He was there, and Daniel Donato, who I also we had a whole conversation with him. He was standing next to us in line. I was running into musicians all over the place last night before the show.
That's really cool. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to Nashville, and I'm trying to figure out the mask thing because I have kids at home, and it's like you gotta, even if I'm vaccinated, like you got to be careful if you have kids.
Yeah, it's tricky, man.
Kind of intense.
I'm vaccinated as well, and I wear a mask in a lot of settings, but like last night, there was not people wearing masks. I don't know I don't know what the reports were from Arkansas, but it did not seem like a very mask heavy scene.
Yeah.
And you're at the gates, you're like crammed in with people trying to get in. So
right. And so that Ghost, I feel like the Wedge and the Ghost, and like during the kind of last part of the first set, it felt like they were like really pretty. They were pretty locked in. It felt like any sort of rust or whatever that we heard at the beginning of Arkansas seemed to be gone. What did it sound like?
A little bit of rust for the final hurrah. They had a rough start trying to figure that one out. But after that, I do think that they sort of found their groove. Just like we're doing our thing. We've been doing this for years, and it took us a second to get our feet under us. But I thought Ghost was good, Wedge was good. Walls of the Cave's always a great set closer, it brings good energy. And I thought that they were pretty squared away on it by that time. And so was the audience. Everybody got settled.
So we got to, and we do have, when we're done talking to Chris, we're going to bring our friend George in, who's also waiting patiently. So we're going to have a couple of different conversations. But Chris, I want to ask you a question from my friend Andy. How long are Fishman's antics going to be tolerated? Was that good
question? In the moment, I was very unsure what was happening on the stage. Like there was all those yes coming, and I didn't know if that was Paige or what. But Trey kept looking at Fishman and laughing, and I was like, at some point, I guess it's coming from Fish. But I was very unsure what that was. It was a bit odd. It was a bit odd.
But it didn't like distract you from the music necessarily, or did it?
No. But typically when I hear Fishman, it's because Trey's shredding. So let's go back in those days.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let's talk about the Carini, because that was just a monster and a second
Huge
show of the tour. Yeah. I mean, I don't have the statistics. I don't really do statistics, but I mean, that has to be like one of the longer jams of an early tour set. It felt like it was a little premature in a great way.
It did not feel like a second song. Actually, George's about to come on. George has a pizza business here in town. I went to his house before the show and hung out for about an hour. So, and we were chatting about that. It's like, I think this is the earliest, like the longest I've ever, the earliest into a tour where I've seen Fish where they have not played in such a long stretch previously. Only the one show. It's been a year and a half or whatever. So I was expecting them to be a bit rusty, but they did not feel rusty at all in that Carini. I mean, they were like really getting after it. It had a bunch of movements. I was re-listening to it today. I personally felt like the ending was a very Mountain Jam vibe at the end of that, which I don't think was a coincidence because we were at Oak Mountain. But the end of that thing was like ripping. It was very, very, very exciting and very good.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're just going to add George because, why not?
Why not?
George.
Him in here.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, George. So you want to jump in on the Carini? What was your experience during that Monster Jam?
Yeah, it just kept going, right? Like they just didn't stop. Like there were so many moments where I was just like ready for it to just kind of dwindle down and kind of fizzle out, and which is like what you would, like as you guys said, it's like what you would expect for like the second show of a tour. You're really not like expecting, just based off of like the past, the track record of these guys, that like they're going to bring a 25-minute jam like on the second night of the tour. So I, 15-minute mark, 18-minute mark, 20-minute mark, I'm like, ready. I'm like waiting for it, bracing myself for it to end. And it just didn't end, which was awesome. It's like, it's always what you want, but you just don't expect it on the second,
and then it grew big at the end. Like it really took off at the end of that. It was quite spectacular there for about 5 minutes.
It just kept getting better and better. And then the end, like it ended at like the perfect time.
So what did you guys, I guess listening back this morning, I thought Page was so prominent in those jams in Carini and in Ghost. I'm not sure if you guys felt the same or if it's like, different being there versus listening, which it probably is. But what do you guys think about Page's presence in the whole thing?
George, go ahead.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like he's very present. He's got some new sounds, some new layers. He's really doing like a lot of synth work, which is cool. And I noticed, I couldn't remember what tune it was on. Sometime in the first set, he was just, I think it was Back on the Train, maybe. Trey just like let him take a full on solo. And it was like normally a time when Trey would be soloing, and he just kind of like let Page have it. And he was like doing some really cool stuff on the roads. And I just thought that, Page was like really, he's really been like stepping out into the spotlight this tour, which has been cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, our Chris from Facebook just said the new synth sounds from the solo record, which it does seem like that's pretty influential on Page at the moment. Some of those spaceship sort of sounds, which is a great thing to add to any jam, It's a pretty good addition.
Absolutely.
Chris, what else for you in the second set? I mean, there was, according to fish.net, there's no pauses. So everything was segue throughout the entire set. And I don't know what else stood out to you.
I was pretty stoked to hear Mountains in the Mist. I heard that at like my second show. That was like 11 years ago or something. So it's been a long time since I heard that one again. It might be like one of the longest gaps between like the second time I've even heard a song. So I was like, they were playing weird ballads last night. I mean, between The Driver in the Dirt and The Mountains in the Mist, I was like, this is so odd, but I was into that. And the encore was such a weird song choices, it's like Yarmouth Road, Gumbo. And then I think they may have broke curfew, because at that point it was basically right at 11 o'clock, and then they went into zero. So I was like, all right, let's do this thing then.
That's awesome. I wonder if the Driver, the Mountains in the Mist, some of the stuff we heard the previous show is kind of I guess Trey's been, done 5 solo acoustic shows. So he's been kind of working some of those songs in. So maybe that's part of it, is that he's like,
that's a good point. That probably is true. He's playing a lot of songs that he probably doesn't typically play very often. Just refining them, I guess.
Mountains in the Mist. I mean, I think it's only been played 25 times. I think I've seen it twice. George, what about you with your highlights from the second set?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Chris, man. Like I loved the choices of ballads last night, and I was at Arkansas too, so I got to catch an If I Could as well. So like between If I Could and then Driver and Mountains in the Mist, like it was great. But like the thing about the second set last night is it just flowed so well, and I was a little bit worried, not like worried, but I was like a little bit like, how's this gonna go, when they started the second set with Evening Song. And I was just like, okay, interesting. But then it kind of occurred to me halfway through that like, well, sometimes they do this, like sometimes they kind of do like a 1-2 like fake out, and they like play sort of like a like a lower energy song to open the second set, and then they when they started Carini, it was like the place just
right. It feels like a bonus song.
Erupted.
Like a bonus song. Right. Like we're squeezing one in,
Yeah, they're like, there's no other time this would be appropriate, so let's just get it over with, and then like just rip into Carini, and the place just went nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I like that approach. I really love. I thought Evening Song and Sigma Oasis were both really well done last night, and I like that move of the brief song to start the second set and then into a jam. They've done that a few times, and it's like it's nice to see because it, I mean, obviously coming out and going straight into Carini or Tweezer or something is great, but nothing wrong with having a little lead in.
There's also I haven't listened to Evening Song a whole bunch, but there's like a quote at the end, something like prepare for. He says something at the very end of the song that's like prepare for the night or something. So there's a line that's like, oh, and now we're about to play Carini, right? Like there's something at the very end. I forget what the quote is. I remember listening to it this morning and it like stuck out to me. I was like, oh, that's not a coincidental. You know what I mean? It's like some of that stuff is they know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like foreboding.
Yeah.
The thing that I really enjoyed though about the first set was that Ghost. I was like, again, went in with pretty low expectations. I've heard a bunch of first set Ghosts, and I love the song. I'm always like happy to hear it. But I just was kind of like, okay, this is going to be, a type 1 Ghost, and it's going to be funky and slow. And I was, I think it was during that jam that I kind of started to think like, oh, there's something kind of in the air tonight, because they were doing some really cool stuff in that short. I mean, I think it was less than 13 or 12 minutes. And what I noticed in that jam is that Mike has this new effect, and it's like a delay or reverb on his bass, which is like a very unique sound. I think he's talked about it on some videos. And the first time I noticed it was in Arkansas during Slave, and it just adds this really like kind of drony but melodic, because he goes up the neck and utilizes this like really ambient reverb, and it drones these bass notes, and then it adds this completely new layer for Trey and Paige and Fishman to like do stuff on top of. And especially Trey it just like laid this foundation and this platform on which he could start to do like really cool stuff, because it almost started to sound like Mike had two instruments. So it was really cool to hear that. And it sounded like a little type 2-ish. And it was great. It was like such a nice surprise to like hear them go to that place, in such a short period of time, but then B, in the first set. So I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah, like micro jams, as coined by our friend Jonathan. That set was like, there's a lot of songs, right? 7 or so songs before that Ghost. So that like you expect something in there, a gin or a stash or something, but the Ghost was amazing. And the Paige's work in there I thought was just incredible. What do you guys think about like they're webcasting all the shows, just being at the show? And now reflecting on it, like, what do you think? I mean, is it all good? Like, just webcast as much as possible. Is there anything?
Yeah, definitely.
Feelings?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a debate amongst people, but you might as well just webcast them. Yeah.
Just webcast them all, right?
Yeah. I mean, there used to be that theory in like 2011, 2012 that like they save all the good stuff for the non-webcasted shows, but I think that those days are long past us.
Since since Baker's Dozen, maybe that's like out the door. It's just like,
or even a few of those Dick's runs where it's like, they're really playing,
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I think it's awesome. And it seems like a lot of other bands are doing that, right? They just as many as they can possibly do. George, is that do you think that now that we're coming out of, or maybe coming out of the pandemic, now that we've been through the pandemic, is that going to be, do you think like the live stream stuff will be more prominent, just in music in general?
Yeah, I think it's here to stay. It's so funny because like it's not just the live music world that's like experiencing this like just sort of sustained change in in just like the way things are working now after the pandemic. Like I'm experiencing it in the restaurant industry. My food truck that I just opened, it's all to go, and like people are very much more receptive to that now after the pandemic and like going through a year of like only getting food to go, and like it's just kind of changed. Like you see it now with Zoom meetings. Corporations are like allowing people to work from home just like permanently now. And yeah, totally with live music, like it's a thing now. And I think it's a good thing. Like Chris said, I think back, you know, when streaming was kind of just breaking through as like a mainstream thing, there was like this theory that like you know, the band would get like they would like lose focus, or they would get distracted by the idea that like they were being filmed. And I think that maybe there was some truth to that, but I think now that it's been years, just kind of they've had a lot of practice and they've been maybe desensitized to it a little bit. And I think it's great for the fans because I've never in, you know, this like 3.0, 4.0 era, whatever, like I've never experienced the level of like fan communication and discussion and analysis that is going on in the scene right now. And I think a lot of it has to do with, you know, Live Fish app, re-listen, you know, all the, you know, the shows are available for download like hours after the show, but also, you know, it's the streaming, it's the webcast too. Yeah. Like everybody's watching every show as it happens. So it's cool. Like it gets everybody really involved. And I think the bands, like, as always, they feed off of audience interaction. And now it's just happening like in a different, kind of a different way, but like they're still totally feeding off of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right. I think well, actually, sorry, anyone who's tuning in, please send your comments and thoughts. Jerry Nash, who just commented, plus they have the robot cameras now, so is the experience better from home? I think it's definitely different. It's not like the guy walking around and trying to get like the good shot and like the two static shots, you know. It's like it feels much more dynamic. And there's so many bands now that have like all the pro shot cameras all over the stage, right? Who's like,
Goose does it, and they just became a band.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And they have like a full touring,
exactly,
group of guys out there recording them all the time.
But I do think the webcasts are getting higher quality. You know, I mean, obviously technology and also just like being used to it. What did you guys notice anything about Trey's like playing tone? Anything that stuck out to you guys after seeing last night, or for you the past two nights, George?
Big time. That's like the biggest thing for me right now with the tour so far is Trey's. I'm very open about the fact that I haven't always been the biggest fan of Trey's tone in recent years. And you know, they're constantly playing with the mix and they're constantly playing with their gear, and I really hope that Trey doesn't touch it from here on out, because I think that it's the best his tone has sounded since 1.0. Honestly, like I just really think that like he's nailed it. I don't know if it's like the new guitar or I think it's a new guitar, right? I don't keep up with his gear.
Well, like, I don't know if he was playing it last night, but he did at Arkansas. He definitely was playing a new guitar.
Yeah, just whatever it is, it's like rounder. It's not as like shrill and like biting and cutting as it has been. It just sounds really like buttery and natural and like clean. And I think it's making all the difference in the world, at least for me as a listener. But I think you can hear it in his playing too. Like there's a lot of finesse, a lot of dynamic. He's playing like really smooth runs, and it just sounds like he's having an easier time like working his way around the neck. I think it's awesome. Like I just love his tone right now, and I honestly I haven't said that in 3.0. I've always been kind of like it's, you know, it's good. I love Trey, but like now it's like it's really good. Like I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say for people watching, in the next few days, we're going to have some updates on the gear. I'll just say that, and we'll tell you more when we can. Chris, did anything stick out about anything that George said hit you last
No,
night?
I agree. I thought it sounded more warm. You know what I mean? There was like a richness to it that I agree that hadn't quite been there in the last couple of years. It may have had something to do with playing a lot of acoustic shows. You know what I mean? Just like hearing that, getting in these like really nice rooms and playing acoustic guitar and just like hearing that warmness off of it. Maybe it triggered something, and he was like, I need to fold that into everything else I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, he's always like messing with his gear, So who knows if it'll hopefully it doesn't change this tour, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. So George, you're doing Arkansas, Oak Mountain, and then are you heading to Atlanta now?
No, I know it kind of looks like I am. It's funny because like we're going to be passing through Atlanta, but no, my wife and we're headed to the beach with my family in South Carolina for a week.
Nice.
So I'm actually done. Like my wife Christina is pregnant. We got our first baby on the way in November.
Congrats.
Thank you. So like I was kind of eyeing Vegas like when they made the announcement, and I was like, or some of the West Coast shows too. Like I think it'd be really fun to go to like Arizona and see him or whatever. But then we found out we're having a kid, and all that's off the table. but I couldn't be
Good
for
reason.
a better reason. Like we're so excited. So
congrats, man. That's great.
That's awesome.
Hey Chris, are you catching more shows later?
Yeah, going to the Gorge.
Gorge, right?
Yeah.
Just
For the
straight
first
out
time,
to the Gorge.
I'm making the pilgrimage. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. Me and my buddy are going.
I've never been. You got to do it, I heard.
Yeah, that's sort of our thought as well. Yeah, we've talked about it for years. It's like, man, every year it's like, oh, this is the time we're doing it, and then we don't. So, and this year we were like, no, it has to happen.
Cool. Well, I wanted to put up this quote here. Mike has a bunch of new stuff too. You mentioned some of his the sound, but Mike's also always like toying with. I mean, I guess they're all probably just toying with their stuff at all times. But Mike's setup looks kind of updated. I mean, they've had a long time to be at home and mess.
Yeah,
with
he got rid of the platform too, right? I think that's gone now.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. It didn't seem like it was there from the webcast I saw. So what do you guys think? I mean, this is a 25-minute Carini last night. What do you guys expect from the Atlanta shows? Anything either song-wise or just like how this tour evolves?
I'm gonna get a huge tweezer, and I'm so like heartbroken that I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah,
but it's like no doubt, like it's either gonna be Atlanta or Nashville that gets the big tweezer, and it's gonna be awesome. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. All I was gonna say is that I have serious FOMO because I've been to every Atlanta show since they got back together, and I'm skipping it because I'm going to the Gorge. And all I could think about last night, it was like, it just kept, every time they would do something big, I would be like, man, Atlanta is going to crush. Like, that's all it just felt like it was this like bubbling intensity. It might have been the FOMO in my head, but it felt like it was all building up that Atlanta was just about to explode. It wouldn't be the first time. I think it was 2015 maybe, where the tour had been a little rocky and they got to Atlanta and just exploded, and then went to Nashville and killed it. So
by the way, Chris, to the day 7/31/15. So 6 years ago today was that Monster Atlanta tweezer. So
yeah,
if they do the tweezer tonight and then a long Kill Devil Falls tomorrow, that sounds like a good way to do it.
I'm still a little surprised there hasn't been a ZZ Top nod. I thought for sure if it didn't come the first night, I was like, well, maybe they just wanted to run through one and they'll play it tonight in Birmingham, and it never happened. So no, look.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
There's not.
I was calling it in Arkansas too, and then I was like, maybe that's just low hanging fruit for them.
But they usually do it. You know what I mean? If it's somebody they did it at the Gorge that one year when I'm blanking. They did After Midnight. Close the set. So it's like normally if someone passes away and they have the song in their catalog, they'll usually pull one out. But
yeah, and they did the Michael Jackson dance party in Camden.
Yeah, apparently. Dusty Hill didn't register.
I mean, it's crazy though. The first night in Arkansas, I don't think there was one cover. And then last night, I mean, I guess Funky Bitch.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, so I mean, can you even consider Funky Bitch a cover at this point? I mean, I guess you have to, but it's no real covers yet. And it doesn't seem like they're going to bring new covers in. It seems like they're just
those numbers have been going down year after year. I feel like there's just far less. Like they've expanded their catalog, and I think they're far less interested in playing other people's music as they used to be.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. That's one of the things that we heard in Alive Again a lot was like, Trey has too much music. It's like
a lot. It's a lot of it. Yeah.
So, they don't need to play a lot of covers. What do you guys think about the lights? That's something we got to cover.
George, go ahead. We were on the side, so I didn't even get a real true look at it, to be totally honest.
I've been super lucky the last 2 shows. Just been blessed with great seats the last 2 nights. So I've had a really good look at the lights. And I mean, it's like at this point, I'm just we're just so spoiled with what Kuroda does. I think it's one of his coolest light rigs yet. But it's almost to me like they get cooler every year. It's like he's constantly bringing on new stuff, and it's always different. And I think it's really cool. One thing I noticed is in Arkansas he had the moving lights, but it seemed like, I might be wrong about this, but I feel like I didn't see any of the moving lights.
They weren't moving last night. I didn't think. Unless I was just missing it. But I thought about that same thing. I was like, I felt like they were supposed to be moving, and they weren't.
So I don't know if that's I guess it's one of 2 things. Either the setup and the venue didn't allow for it, for that kind of mobility, lower ceiling or something, or he has 2 different setups, and he's at the beginning of the load in or whatever, he's like, all right, we're doing light setup B today, or just depending on what he feels like. So I don't know, but even without the moving lights, I thought it was so cool. And those bars with the I don't know what they're called, but they're super bright. And when he gets some haze up on the stage, it almost looks like beams of light, depending on how he's shining them, and there can be columns of light moving, and it's very trippy, and it's very cool. And even just with them all stationary, I thought it was awesome. And he was doing some really awesome stuff, and then he was doing some throwback old 1.0 light stuff with the cones and the sort of the beams and stuff. Yeah. So I thought it was a great mix of looks and scenes, and I thought he was just nailing it as he always does. But it's like I said, it's almost at this point I'm just never surprised that the lights are awesome, but super great.
It is interesting. We mentioned Mike and Trey and Paige and all these people toying with their gear. Kuroda is always toying with his gear, right? It's every year it's what do we got to do? All right, we did this, something else. I got to find something else. He's always trying to keep bringing it. A lot of bands this long in their career, the light designers I designed the lights, and that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't have to keep working this hard to track down all the new stuff, but he still seems to love it. Has the energy for it. Wants to bring the best show he can bring every time, which is fortunate for us.
Yeah, for sure. So you got a really nice golden age in there, which we haven't really talked about, but I felt like it was just, they got into the jam, and it felt like a kind of continuation of the Carini jam. They just wanted to kind of get back into it. The Harry Hood closer, which is, I think the best way to close the second set. They got into a little jam in there, not straight, not the straight Hood jam. It seemed like they were, by the end there, they were I don't think they wanted to stop playing. That's what I got from listening back.
Yeah, I definitely think they broke curfew on the encore for sure. I agree with that. I think they had gotten excited and were excited to keep playing. I was pretty thrilled about the golden age. There was a big storm blowing north of Birmingham, like it was supposed to rain, but it kind of missed us. And by the time that golden age came through, we were just getting these huge gusts of just cool wind that was blowing over the crowd, and that was like a pristine moment, Yeah, the lyrics are so positive, and it's like all upbeat music, and this like gorgeous wind is just like blowing over, cooling everyone off. That was a nice moment for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those are the moments that like often don't get talked about, but like people, like everybody in attendance experiences them. And I first noticed, like, because it was just so like overbearingly hot all day yesterday. It's like hottest day of the year probably, and it was the first like breeze that I felt was actually during like the peak of Walls. And it was so crazy because like everybody, like we experienced like this collective moment of like right when Walls was peaking, like this huge like wind started blowing, and everybody was like cheering about the music and the elements at the same time. And it was just one of those like really awesome collective moments. Like, and it's like you don't catch that on the stream, like you just have to be there. But it's just such a cool, like, everybody's like experienced that at some point. It was just really awesome. It's like hard to put into words, like that kind of experience,
That's fantastic. I'm glad you guys got to experience that. And thanks for joining us here. We'll talk to you, Chris, maybe after the Gorge, and George, we'll talk to you when you want to bring your baby on.
Yeah, we'll talk pizza and babies.
Yeah, sounds great to me. Well, thank you guys both for joining. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
right, thanks for having us.
Okay. All right, guys. See you, Chris. Thank you. All right, guys. Just a reminder, this is all brought to you by Shift Genuine Cannabis, our awesome partner. And we'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. I can't wait. I'm just going to sit here and wait until 1 o'clock, maybe take a break to watch the stream. But appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this. And we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.